It's so true.
Hey friends, welcome to the Upright Christian Parenting Podcast, Season 4, part of the Treehouse Storyteller family. And I'm your host, Hannah Peru. This is your place for upright parenting in today's sideways culture. We don't tiptoe around hard truths around here. We tackle cultural issues head on, build a bold biblical worldview, and equip you to lead your flock with courage. Our kids are being discipled by something, so let's make sure it's us. Grab your coffee, lace up your shoes, and let's raise kingdom arrows. Hey everyone, welcome back to Upright Christian Parenting. We brought the Treehouse to Nashville today just for you. And today I have with me my new friend, Christy Stutzman, and we are at National Religious Broadcasters. So thanks for joining me today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I want to dig in, and I would love to hear from your perspective a little bit of your backstory. Okay. So I want to hear she's performing arts, she's, creative, but creative turned politician. And I want to hear this story. Take your time of how this weaves together.
This winding road that I've taken. I mean, when God opens doors, you just kind of step through by faith and you say, okay, Lord, but it's a walk of faith. And
that's right.
So, I was raised in a Christian home and really taught about America's Christian heritage, things like that. And I knew it all, but I went to school for music. And so I studied voice and I was in performing arts and was in operas and musicals and, Shakespeare and stuff like that. So, So, I mean, that was my world, right? And so I married this guy who was like an entrepreneur and had all these big plans, right? We had big plans for his businesses. I wanted to write music at home. And so we had a baby, our firstborn, and just so excited as new parents, starting off in life and everything. And then 9/11 happened 3 weeks after we had our first child. And it really kind of like sobered us up a little bit, I think the whole country would kind of did a gut check. Okay, what is the world looking at right now?
Totally.
And so we just decided to get more involved in our community. So we just started showing up and just kind of seeing who was in charge. Like, was our community in good hands and did we trust them and how could we help? Right. So we started showing up at we'd attend a commissioner's meeting or a county board meeting or our local Republican, group meeting. So we showed up and we were usually one of the younger people that showed up with a little baby, And one night they had approached us about starting like a Young Republicans Club and getting involved that way. And we did. But then they approached us about my husband about running for state representative because they didn't have anybody to run against the incumbent who was a Democrat. And so we asked, what does it take? And they said, well, you have to go down to the state house and register. And so we prayed about it, sought some wise counsel. And we thought, well, it's a tough road. I mean, he's 10-year incumbent. 10 years before that, he was a sheriff. It's going to be tough. And so we thought, well, if we try this time, we'll put the name out there. And then when he retires, we might be a front runner, And we just worked hard. We did 15 parades. I did fundraisers, and it's amazing. I was from the world of fine arts. And when I went to the training seminars, the political training seminars, you start realizing that the skills that you've developed over the years actually translate. Yeah. And instead of being so intimidating, you're like, oh, I can do that. Right. Yeah. So you just kind of step forward and all right, I can handle putting together a dinner. I could do a mailer. Yep. I can design this thing and send it out, So we just worked it hard and we ended up winning by 249 votes.
It's incredible.
And then we were like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
Now we actually are going down to the state house.
Tell me exactly where this is.
This is in small town, Indiana. So it'd be close to Fort Wayne.
So I don't know if you know this. I'm from Granger, Indiana.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that.
So you are from the county over, Elkhart County?
Yes. Well, we're in LaGrange, Elkhart area.
Okay.
Yeah.
LaGrange.
Yeah.
So St. Joe County.
Yeah.
So we're we butt up against each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, right in that same area. Oh yeah. So
your people are my people. Yeah.
I mean, this was small town. We're talking the local courthouse.
Yeah.
And at this time, this was 2002.
Yeah.
And they brought in the ballots in duffel bags and they counted them.
I can picture this.
And out in the hallway, they have this big chalkboard with a grid on it.
Yeah.
And they have all the precincts and they have the candidates, and we have clipboards and we're all keeping track of all the numbers. And so this was a big deal. And everybody knew it was pretty close. It was a state rep position. And it was pretty close. And by the end of the night, somebody just turned to my husband and was like, well, you got enough? And he counts it up again. He goes, yeah. And the whole place went crazy, cheered. My little son was about 2 years old and he's crying. He doesn't know what's going on. And then the incumbent, who had been waiting across the street for the results, comes in the front door, shakes my husband's hand, and says, you call me if you need anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he posed for a picture with the newspaper. And they've had a great relationship ever since.
Great.
I think it's just a beautiful picture of the way America should be.
Yeah.
Of peaceful transfer of power.
Totally.
Blessing, on the next person who takes
not cutting each other on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And really was kind of to me, it was like a picture of the stewardship that we should view elected officials as having. They're stewarding a position that belongs to the people. Mm-hmm. It's not their seat. Right. It's the people's seat. Yeah. And
that's right.
You're there for a certain amount of time to steward it for the people and then hand it to the next person. Yeah. And, there'd been some ugly ads, but it wasn't terrible. And it was just very, very American in the way it was handed over. So that was our journey. And then he went on to serve in the state Senate. Mm-hmm. And then our congressman resigned. And so he was elected in a special election. He ended up in Congress. Mm-hmm. And here I have an 8-year-old and 4-year-old going to Congress. And it was all new. This was not the plan. I kept telling my husband, was like, this wasn't the plan. And he's like, yeah, it's God's plan. I know, but this wasn't my plan.
This wasn't in my plan.
And I'm a planner. So, it was challenging, but we learned a lot, about America. And so that's why, as we served in Congress, I kind of went back to my roots in music a little bit, but it was almost all consuming for a while. Mm-hmm. Had to set on the back burner, but to share with you, so my book.
And you brought us some goodies today, so let's look through these.
Yeah, so this is a book that I wrote a couple years ago. It's called The Spiritual Price of Political Silence. And the reason I called it that was that when Marlon was in Congress, we traveled on different diplomatic missions. Mm-hmm. And we went to Israel, we went to some Eastern Bloc countries, and we kept hearing the same message. Mm. And I was convicted after I heard this message from several leaders in different countries. Mm. I was convicted as a person who was in fine arts, who knew how to communicate, who had been trained how to communicate with the arts and with speech and everything. I kept hearing the message, we love America. We want to do trade with America. Here's our products. Here's our manufacturing. Here's what we grow. But please stop exporting your morals. You're ruining our children.
Wow.
And that's hard to hear as an American. And then we were in Israel, our guide. He had us read Matthew 5 when we were standing on Mount of Beatitudes where the Sermon on the Mount happened. And so we're all kind of in tears and just one of those moments. And then he says, I want you to read verses 13 through 16 again. And so we read, you're the salt of the earth. Yeah. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall be salted, is henceforth good for nothing, but be cast out and be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set in hell cannot be hid. Yeah. And when we got done with those verses, he looked at us and he says, now, all of you are leaders in America. And he said, as a citizen of Israel, I want to tell you, I want to say thank you because America has done this thing that Jesus said. America has been a light to the world, and I want to thank you for that. And then he followed up with something that really hit us, and he said, but please don't stop. Mm. If you stop, I don't know who's going to take your place or do what you've done. So that combined with the messages of please stop exporting your morals, I came home with a burden to say, first of all, we must be involved as Christians. We must be involved as salt and light around the world. We can't let this stop. Yeah. But also, we need to do a gut check on who we are and what we're projecting to the world. Yeah. That was very concerning for me. And I totally got what they were saying because I have the same concern. And so when my husband ran for Senate and lost, we were out of politics for a while. I served as a state representative. And during that time, we purchased it's a tourist spot. So you would probably know it. It's Amish Acres, Round Barn Theater. We purchased that.
I've been there, done that. Yes.
So nobody. Yes, okay. So we bought this place and it had been around for 50 years, right? Everybody took school trips and
everybody.
family things, So it had been a Broadway rep, and we wanted to kind of like take our little bite out of the culture by preserving this place because it was historic, but also producing original shows. And so I bought some titles of books that I felt would make good musicals. And the reason I did that was that there's a feeder program to Hollywood, and it starts in the theater sections of our universities.
Yeah.
And that part right there is scary right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the material and just everything.
Yeah.
And all the arts is just so woke. And I thought, if somebody doesn't write good material, content, then we're not going to have this to actually teach people and to like let them cut their teeth on it before they get to Hollywood. So we started producing things. And so this is my other 2 show and tell things I brought today. We did When Calls the Heart, which is on Hallmark for I think they're on their 15th or 16th season.
Yeah.
I always loved her books. I was in love with the Mountie. I was going to marry him when I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought this would make a great musical.
We all wanted the Mountie, but there's only one of them.
Seriously. I mean, I was 14 and I was like, So I thought that would make a great musical. So we wrote When Calls the Heart during COVID, and huge response. And then another one by Jeanette Oak, Love Comes Softly, which has been made into like a series of 8 movies or whatever, the saga. Both were really well received. And so we started doing that. And I found that the originals actually sold better than the old classics. We were selling more tickets to the originals because people recognized the titles, but also because they knew they could trust it. Yeah. They could bring their whole family, grandma, all the way down to kindergartner, and they could enjoy it. But we try to make it competitive with everything that's out there, like on the excellence scale. So I'm working with people in Nashville and producing tracks and writing songs and stuff. So we started doing that, and that's what I'm doing still. I'm working on that while my husband's in Congress again. So
that's incredible. Wow. Full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
So I wanted to touch on something you said. You mentioned a lot about salt and light with the Matthew verse, and I've been studying salt this week. And you mentioned the idea of preserving culture.
Yeah.
And part of being salt preserves.
Right.
And so when we are called to be the salt of the earth, we are to preserve our culture, preserve the way that this country was founded, back to biblical principles, back to, really our founding fathers' vision for our nation. And so by you doing that and in the art scene, you're doing that.
Yeah, it's a mission field. It really is. It's kind of one of those, it's an area in our culture that I think a lot of conservatives have walked away from and kind of washed their hands and said, well, there's no hope, so we're going to turn towards other things. And what I'm finding is, first of all, it's hard to get funding from conservatives for live shows because they're not used to supporting that because it's so woke and so dark.
Yeah.
Which I get. I totally get that. So fundraising is hard. Getting someone to carry the titles is hard. You've got MTI, you've got Concord, all these big names that are carrying the Disney things, and they're carrying Hamilton, and they're carrying Wicked and all this stuff. You're competing with that. And there is actually a system. It's like a little manufacturing, putting out stuff all the time. And it goes, I just saw this week, they came out with Hamilton for high school and junior high. Okay. So they've, taken out some of the bad words and stuff like that. But what are they doing? They're putting it out here as like the ultimate to reach for. And then they're sending it into the schools and they're training them on that. Yeah. And now, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda traveling around with Ken Burns with his new documentary on American culture or American Revolution. And they're speaking to young people all around the country about the American Revolution, their version of it. And we're not in that space. Yeah. And I felt like, somebody's got to be in that space speaking into that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I started, we just actually are in the process of selling the round barn and Amish acres because I told him, I was like, I cannot do it. And you be in Congress and it's a little too much. So we were going to, and we're still working on this, but I had planned to do a show called Washington's Reign of Spies, a musical revolution. And it was a story based on the revolution that we were going to premiere this year. We're still trying to work on that. Still raising money and trying to find a venue. We had dates reserved at the Kennedy Center, September 14th through the 20th. Wow. And closing it down July 4th.
Oh
so
my goodness. Oh
we're
my
like,
goodness.
oh, we just lost our dates. So we're looking for a new venue.
Trusting the Lord in that.
Oh, it's a walk of faith.
Yeah.
It's a walk of faith. But so the Washington Ring of Spies is the coolest story I've ever read about the revolution. But it started with a young man. He was 36 years old. He's a Jewish gentleman from Poland originally, financial genius. He went to university in Europe looking for a place where he could practice his faith freely. Ended up in New York at the age of 33 and joined the Sons of Liberty. And then, of course, we lost the battle for New York. So the Americans were out of New York, but the British had taken over. They set up their headquarters there. And he, on his own, started spying on the British. And he got caught, and they put him in prison. And he spoke 6 or 7 languages. This guy was just a genius. His name was Haim Salomon. And so they put him in prison, and he says, hey, guys, I'm having a hard time talking to your Hessian mercenaries. So let me interpret for you. Let me translate.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So they let him out. He starts translating. And about, 6-8 months in, they start noticing that, first of all, American prisoners are escaping. And second of all, Hessians are defecting. And they put 2 and 2 together, and Haim was not translating right. And so they imprisoned him again. And this time the Sons of Liberty helped him escape miraculously, but he escaped with nothing. He was very wealthy at the time, escaped with nothing to Philadelphia.
Wow.
Started over again, and here we're in the middle of the war.
Yeah.
And he went to Washington and Madison and a couple others and said, what do you need? And they said, well, Congress doesn't have any money. We need funding. He started writing to the Jewish community in Europe saying, send money to the Americans. They need your help.
Wow.
So they start sending money. He gives his own fortune, up to $24 million in equivalent to the American cause.
Yeah.
So he's financing Washington and everything.
Yeah.
He's also financing a group that kind of was put together by a 23-year-old named Benjamin Talmadge. He was the chief of intelligence for Washington, 23. And he had put together a group of his own childhood friends on Long Island to start spying on the British.
Yeah.
Because he trusted them. He knew they were patriots. And so Haim was he was helping fund all of this. And so Benjamin and Abraham Woodhull and Anna Strong and Robert Townsend and all these names that we haven't had in our history books actually started spying and outspied the British in incredible ways. And we're talking like a whaleboater, a farmer, a tavern owner, an innkeeper, a merchant, a slave woman. Yeah. They're all coming together and they're spying. I think the most beautiful thing about it, though, and the most American thing about it, is the fact that they went to their graves and didn't tell anybody what they did. And that's why they're not in our history books.
Wow.
Because they went to their graves and said, not going to tell my kids, not going to tell my grandkids. This is our secret. This was my cover. Because their actual lives were their spy cover. Yeah. And so they wanted to go back to them. And so it's just the most incredible story. And there's beautiful stories of redemption in it as well. There's so many themes throughout it. Self-sacrifice, duty, putting others above yourself. Yeah. You're longing for freedom and sacrificing for that, sacrificing for the next generation, understanding what the last generation has given you, and then being willing to be a stepping stone for the next generation. I mean, these are all principles in this thing that they did.
And none of which are things that are being taught or elevated in our school system today.
That's so true.
Yeah. Before we jump back into today's conversation, we want to take a moment to thank the partners who help make this podcast possible. One of those partners is College of the Ozarks, an institution committed to Christ-centered education, hard work, and developing leaders of character. Take a listen to this special message from College of the Ozarks.
What does the American spirit feel like? Come experience it at College of the Ozarks. Walk through Patriots Park, where sacrifice is honored. Tour the Ralph Foster Museum and celebrate America's stories. And at the Keeter Center, explore the Military Gallery, honoring the sacrifice and legacy of those who served. Here, every day is a celebration of American heritage. Plan your visit and see for yourself. College of the Ozarks, Hard Work U, where America's story lives on.
Welcome back to the conversation with Christy Stutzman. Let's get back to it.
It's so true. It's almost opposite of the culture right now. It's like countercultural.
It is.
Because we're talking like, people are trying to go instant famous and, kids expect attention on everything they're doing. Yep. And really, I mean, it reminds me a lot of the military. And I know you're married to a gentleman who's a Marine. So that mentality of do the right thing regardless.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you get rewarded or a pat on the back. You just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And it's very, very American, very Christian, thing to do. But you have people from different faith backgrounds and practices, different ethnicities, different roots, all coming together for one cause, and that was to preserve our freedom for the next generation. So that's Washington's Ring of Spies. We're working on the musical right now with a group in Nashville and across the country to make that happen.
That's incredible. And you need a venue.
Yes, we need a venue and we need funding. So we're in the middle of fundraising right now, but yeah.
Yeah. And what does that look like? Is that something that my viewers or audience could contribute to?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they go on to, it's being sponsored by the National Council for the Performing Arts, which is a brand new entity.
Wow.
Danny Bartolotta started it with several others. And I can't list like the whole board, but they're really great people. And he's like, we need an answer to the other side. Yeah. So let's start a national council for the performing arts and let's encourage uplifting, aspirational, inspirational arts. So underneath that umbrella, we're starting the National Theater Company of America.
Okay.
Which we've never had.
Yeah.
And we're starting the National Dance Company of America.
Oh, that's incredible.
So there's 2 different entities. We're hoping for more right now. But they would be the sponsoring, entity for Washington's Ring of Spies. It's their first big product, I guess production, you want to call it. Yeah. Yeah. So they're working on that, and it's quite the project. Danny's been so helpful with this. So we're looking for a venue possibly in DC, but we're also looking at other places around the country. We've got some interest in Dallas, Palm Beach, even Branson, even LA. So all these people have come to the table and said, hey, we'd be interested in having it come. We're thinking about maybe even doing like a national tour because there's a lot of interest out there for it.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
So what it does is like
Colorado, that's where I am.
Yeah, there you go. we have to do a Western stop. There has to be West, Midwest in there.
Yeah.
But I think the need really is twofold. That is educational. Yeah. Letting us know like they're kind of like new heroes, even though they're from the Revolution, because we didn't know about them. Yep. So they're new heroes, but I think they're also very relatable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can relate because I'm married to a guy who was a farmer. Yeah. And the spy master was a farmer. Yeah. And someone who has been in the Navy or in shipping would understand this whaleboater guy, who was acting as a privateer, but also a courier, innkeeper. A merchant. I mean, there's somebody that anybody can relate to in the story. It's very American. Yeah. And so we're looking for that, but we're also looking to educate people about the Judeo-Christian founding and what motivated our founders and where that came from. So there's a beautiful soliloquy at the end that George Washington actually is documented as saying. He visited the tavern where the spies would meet. It was like their drop point sometimes. And he gave this beautiful thank you to the people of Long Island. And I can't imagine there being a dry eye in the place once he was done, because he was resigning his position. He's going back home, and they had won. At any moment, these people could have walked up to George Washington and said, it was me. Mm-hmm. I was 355, I was Culper Jr. Mm-hmm. And none of them did. Yeah. So for 200 years, we didn't know who they were until this guy who was obsessed with the story. His name was Morton Pennypacker. Can't make that up. He was obsessed with figuring out who these people were. They found several things that started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And finally, they found a journal in an attic, in a trunk. And they compared handwriting to handwriting in George Washington's communication with the spies. And they're like, that's Robert Townsend. Wow. And then from there, they figured out Abraham Woodhull. And then from there, they figured out, Anna Strong. So their secret was out, basically. Oh my goodness.
It makes me think of how impossible is it going to be to track certain things today if everything's digital. We can't match handwriting or fingerprints or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true.
That's an incredible piece of history that we only know because of personal handwritten pen to paper.
Probably in cursive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That a
No,
lot of
it's so
kids
true.
can't read today.
Exactly. I mean, it's sad, but yeah, it's very true. And
Wow.
yeah, it was kind of hidden. And so he
Yep.
wasn't like broadcasting it, but
Yeah.
I think it was just for his own personal
Mm.
memories, you
Yeah.
know, he struggled with melancholy, they said, you know, after the war. And I
Mm.
think that was part of it. He had this cause and, you know, he's part of it. And then all of a sudden it's done.
Yeah.
Now what do you do?
Yeah.
And,
It's kind of like the modern PTSD situation. Like,
yes.
okay, now how do I go from here? What do I do?
I think he would have been diagnosed with that.
Yeah.
Like reading kind of some of the documents of, you know, what he was experiencing is
Yeah.
very similar to PTSD. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But they didn't know what it was back then. So they called
Right.
it melancholy.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
true.
mean, beautiful people and beautiful story. And I think it's something that this generation really needs. They need to just kind of be reminded of who they are, where they came from, you know, and also what America was, how we started out and what the hopes were and who we should be.
Yeah.
I think we get tired of being told who we should be
Yeah.
instead of being who we are,
Right.
who we've always been,
Right.
you know?
Stepping into God's calling for
Yeah.
your life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
let the culture put a box around us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I hate boxes. I'm a
Yep.
creative.
Oh, I know. I'm here with you, sister. Like, don't put me in this box.
Exactly.
I'm glad this has an openness on one side.
Don't fence me in, man.
Fence me in. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
So what encouragements, before we close today, what encouragements you have for parents in the creative and the theater space? Maybe they're in a local theater. We have 2 or 3 local theaters
Yeah.
kind of on our little side of the mountain where we live,
Mm-hmm.
and they're thriving, but they aren't. They're definitely, at least some of them are woke. They're definitely not somewhere that I would just be like, yes, let's just throw my kids
I
into
know.
this.
Yep.
And so what can we do from that small community space to help
Mhm.
kind of pivot things and make a change and an impact there?
Oh, that's a good question. As a parent, I would be very wary of sending my kids to any university that tends to be lean liberal, because the theater department is going to be 10 times worse.
Right.
And sometimes the music department too.
Yeah.
So I would say look for colleges and universities that, adhere to Judeo-Christian principles,
Mm-hmm.
have a Christian worldview that they
Mhm.
teach, and also really, really, really prepare your kids before they go off to college. If they're going to pursue that, let them know they have to know why they believe what they believe before they go, and that they're going to make sacrifices. Like,
Yeah.
in my mind, I knew I'm never going to apply to a Broadway show, on Broadway. I'm never going to, my stuff is probably not going to be carried in a big way. And you have to resign yourself to that fact. And it's hard. But at the same time, I think there is an opportunity for parents to actually step up, just like we did during COVID and found out what they were teaching our kids.
Right.
We can step up to the community theaters and say, hey, we know you're getting this stuff from the universities. However, we will sell tickets and we will bring the crowds, because tickets,
Mm-hmm.
butts in the seat make a difference.
Exactly.
So we will sell tickets and we will bring the crowds if you will produce and then list the shows that you want, whether it's, One Calls the Heart, whether it's Oklahoma, whatever, a good uplifting music man, say, if you produce this stuff.
It's all about the territory.
Exactly.
That's all I'm thinking right now.
I mean, you won't have to worry about selling tickets because we will work hard to support what you're doing. Yeah. But if you go down this other path, we're not going to support it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like you're boycotting.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like you're encouraging, and look outside the box. Like, they get all their stuff from the same place. They get it from MTI, Concord, Broadway musicals. They get all that stuff from Disney, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And look outside the box for other things that are being produced, because there's other places producing good stuff, but it just takes a little extra work to find it.
Right.
And it's not in the pipeline.
Okay.
It's not in the pipeline from Broadway to the university to the community theater.
Yep.
That's what they're following. They're following the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's easy to get.
Mm-hmm.
But what they'll find is other things, like I'm making my licensing very affordable, so that anybody can do. I'm talking like high school, junior high, community theater, university, you name it, professional theater. And they will see the difference in their bottom line if they would do this. And I think also it will draw crowds.
Mm-hmm.
But I think parents have to be proactive if their kids are talented, of not putting them, first of all, in the pipeline without being prepared, without knowing what they're getting into, And then also without speaking out publicly about it and saying, my kid is super talented. I want them to explore and, find, their calling.
Right.
But I'm not going to allow them to have to compromise in order to do that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I did auditions. I sat through 400 auditions the other day in Memphis.
Oh,
it
my
was
goodness.
appalling. We're talking 20, 21, 22-year-olds who are coming from the universities. And they're prepped.
Yeah.
They're really prepped. They have a
Yeah.
minute and a half. They sing a song and they do a monologue. The monologues were nothing but filth. It was bad word, F-bombs, everything, and sexually exploitive, terrible, terrible things.
Yeah.
And they're doing this as part of a 30-second monologue to show you how they can act. And I started asking them, my friend was with me, she was a mother, and she had never seen anything like it. So she asked one of them, she said, where are you getting your material? And they said, well, our professors, find it. We said, where are your professors getting the material? Oh, we don't know, but they're getting it from somewhere because we started hearing some of these monologues over and over again after 300. And I'm like, okay, the source is somewhere.
Yeah.
And so my question, my, problem solving mind goes to, okay, we need to write monologues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we need to get them out there and get them available and make it easy to get. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's things like that could be done that, I'm sure there's a parent out there who's a good writer, write some monologues that show, a variety of emotions in like a 30-second thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of the professors are the problem as well. So
it's really sad. And it's like the desperation of that age to think that's what they have to do.
Yes.
It's like performing prostitution. Like, this is what I have to do in order to be successful.
It was degrading. I was embarrassed for them. I mean, and I'm sitting there in a room with Disney.
Yeah.
They'd come out and sing a Disney princess song and then they just start off with filth.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, who is telling them they have to do this in order to get a job?
Yeah.
Is Disney?
Yeah.
Is Princess Cruise Lines? Is, Sight and Sound was there. I'm sure they didn't want that.
Right.
I was there. I didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really actually losing jobs by doing that, but they're being told that they'll get a job because they're willing to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Christian young people that have been forced into that. Not forced, but just, convinced to do it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad. But I think it's changeable. I had callbacks with a lot of these kids. And I would tell the story about watching Ring of Spies. You should have seen their eyes. Word spread very quickly. I met with probably 10 of them at first. And then when we took a break and we came back to the room and I had a pile of resumes outside my door. And we didn't have anything fancy out the door. All we had was the logo and the sign-up sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And I came out of the door and people were coming up to me saying, hey, we heard about your show. We want to be a part of your show. That sounds really, really cool. We love American history. So it's not like they're closed off from it.
Wow.
It's just you have to invite them in and say, hey, this is exciting.
Yeah.
And give them material that looks really, cool. And then they will learn as they study the characters and as they, go through the process. So
it's so encouraging. It's so encouraging to see what you're doing. And I think as more and more people such as yourself rise up, take a stand, and that exposure happens, those two organizations that are budding up, that's really exciting. I think big changes are in our future.
I think so too.
Yeah, and I think, the whole world of like Christian acting and Christian, everyone thinks low budget, icky, like, no,
I know.
they can't do it. But
so true.
I mean,
it's getting better. Our level is getting better.
And I think it's because so many believers have just sold themselves over instead of being, hey, no, I know I have a calling. I know I have a talent. I'm going to use this for God's glory.
Right.
And stay in that space.
Well, I mean, I think the other side has gotten so good at a level of excellence, whether it's they're really good at CGI or they're really good at storytelling, they're really good at taking you on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little bit of experimentation with some of my shows. So When Calls the Heart, I changed it into a romantic comedy because it was during COVID and everybody was cranky. Everybody was not mad. I think we're just mad at the world, right? So they would show up at our theater just kind of, and my goal was to just make them laugh. Let's just make them laugh. So it was a romantic comedy, really, really funny. And my win was when the guys were drugged there by their wives to go see the show. I'm sitting out in the lobby just listening. And when the guys would say, that was really funny. I really laughed a lot. That was good. yes, we got it. So you take them on a journey and you invite them into this world, and then you have an opportunity to speak into their life, whether it's with songs that will last for a long time. You think about the show 1776. It came out, the musical came out in 1976. I'm seeing that it's being performed around the country. It's 50 years later. This is what we're trying to do with Ring of Spies. We're trying to introduce something that's going to be in the culture for a long time.
Impact.
Right. The music's still around. The principles are still around. There's a performance of ragtime going on right now at Lincoln Center. Those songs stay around, for a long time. So we're trying to do that. But the other thing is, and I found it was interesting with my experiment, was my next show that I did was it was romantic, but it had tragedy. It started off with a really gut-wrenching tragedy, Love Comes Softly, where she loses her husband in a tragic way, and she's kind of left on her own, and she's not a believer. So I was nervous that the audience wouldn't like it as much because, you punch him in the gut first thing, and then you try to bring him back. And then when is it okay to laugh once, with the loss and stuff? And so I brought in this, the little girl and a couple little kids as comic relief. And then I brought in another character as comic relief and went through but it was a whole journey. It was a roller coaster. And the people that had come to see When Calls the Heart and love, I went to them and said, so what do you think? And I asked them, this was very, very scary on my part to say, which one did you like better? And the overwhelming answer was the tragedy. And I thought, wow. And so I asked him, why? Why would you like the tragedy more than the comedy? And they said, because there's so many real life relatable moments. I related to the loss. I related to the struggle. I related to questioning God. It was very human. And I think the other side is so good at taking us on a journey and telling a story, but concluding wrong. They come to the wrong conclusions or they leave you empty. And that's what we have to offer as Christians is we have a solution. We have fulfillment. We have an answer.
Right.
And so that journey is going to feel, a lot more fulfilling. We have to hone our skills of storytelling and study what they've done and go, okay, we went on a journey, didn't we? Okay. If you look at the musical Wicked, it takes you on a journey, right? And it tells a story and you get to know those characters and you get to love those characters. Same thing with Harry Potter on Broadway. The same thing with Lion King. So we can take lessons like we have in the movie area, but in the live stage space, I think what makes it unique is that in the digital age in which we live, we don't interact in a physical presence with people as much as we did before.
Right.
And I think there's going to be like a need for people to actually get in community and experience something that's real, that's not AI, that they can trust that actually happened.
Yeah, I'm seeing that with this next generation. They're craving time together. They're craving face to face. There's something weird happened where kids lost that ability over 2020. And now that some time has passed, it's like, okay, I need this. Like I have to be
that human interaction where you can trust that this is a real, I can touch this person and they're real, because it is a new world that we're living in. But I think that's why the live stage space is so key moving forward. There's multiple reasons, but that community, but also making sure that we're in that space to kind of change the conversation, change the content, change the direction, and hopefully, win it back. At least parts of it.
That's great.
Where we can.
That's great. Oh, Christy, it's been so good. I could just listen to you tell stories all day. So you clearly are skilled. You're doing what you're called to do.
Thanks.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing this time with me.
Thanks for having me.
I can't wait to see you more this week and get to know you better.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be a really fun week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. If today's conversation stirred something in you, if you're craving a little more quiet, a little more presence, and a little more Jesus in the everyday, I want to invite you to grab the Wanderer's Field Guide. It's a 4-week journey of seeking, gathering, harvesting, and abiding in His presence. Just 1 page a day, 1 prayer at a time. It's not about perfection, it's about coming home to Him. You can order yours at thetreehousestoryteller.com.